Admiral Zekrith watched in horror as black armored figures approached his flagship through open space. They moved with the fluid grace of creatures born in vacuum, using small maneuvering thrusters attached to their armor. Behind them, his fleet continued to report catastrophic boarding actions. "Seal all airlocks," he commanded. "Deploy every security team. These humans will not take my ship." But even as he gave the orders, Zekrith knew they were futile. 18 vessels had already fallen to the human warriors. The pattern was always the same: swift infiltration, precision strikes, and complete control within minutes. "Sir," his intelligence officer reported, "we're receiving a wideband transmission from Terra Nova. It appears to be directed at all human forces." "Put it through," Zekrith ordered. Perhaps he could learn something useful about these impossible warriors. General Harrison's voice filled the bridge. Calm and authoritative. "All Apex Predator teams, this is Terra Nova Command. Phase 2 is authorized. Full spectrum deployment. Show them what American warriors can do." The transmission sparked immediate responses from throughout the fleet. "SEAL Team 7, copy that. Going full operational. Delta Force acknowledges. Beginning ship-to-ship assault. Marine Force Recon is green. Semper Fidelis. Army Rangers confirm. Moving to assault positions. Air Force Pararescue standing by for extraction ops. Green Berets are go. Time to teach some aliens about unconventional warfare." Zekrith listened to the coordinated responses with growing dread. These weren't random raiders. This was a completely organized military operation involving multiple specialized units. "How many different types of these apex predators are there?" he whispered. His answer came in the form of devastating reality. Across his fleet, the human assault intensified dramatically. The initial boarding teams had been preparing the way for something much larger on the tactical display. Zekrith watched as his remaining ships came under assault from warriors who seemed to specialize in different forms of impossible warfare. The crushing void reported attackers, who emerged from the ship's water recycling systems. "They came through the pipes?" The captain screamed. "How can they breathe water?" "Marine Force Recon," came a calm human voice over the comm. "We're amphibious assault specialists. Your ship's flooded sections are our natural element." The Stellar Dominion reported intruders appearing simultaneously in multiple sealed compartments. "They're everywhere at once?" "Security is reporting contacts on 12 decks." "This is Delta Force," a human replied. "We specialize in getting to places that can't be reached. Your ventilation systems are highways to us." The Iron Conquest screamed about attackers descending from above through what should have been solid hull plating. "They're falling through the ceiling?" "Army Rangers," came the response. "We're airborne infantry. Gravity is just a suggestion." Each human unit seemed impossibly specialized, trained for combat scenarios that conventional military doctrine couldn't address. They fought in environments where normal soldiers couldn't survive, using tactics that defied galactic understanding of warfare. "Sir?" his communications officer called out. "The humans aboard our captured vessels are coordinating their attacks. They're sharing intelligence and supporting each other across the entire fleet." Zekrith watched the tactical display with sick fascination. The human warriors weren't just randomly attacking. They were executing a carefully planned joint operation. With different specialized teams supporting each other in ways he'd never seen, SEAL teams would disable a ship's defenses. Then Delta Force would capture critical systems while Rangers secured escape routes. When hegemony forces attempted counterattacks, Marine Force Recon would emerge from unexpected directions to support their fellow humans. "They fight like a single organism," his tactical officer observed with professional admiration. "Each unit has different capabilities, but they coordinate perfectly." A new alarm sounded on the bridge. "Admiral," the security chief reported, "we have contact. The human infiltrators have reached our ship." "Where?" Zekrith demanded. "Everywhere, sir. They appear to be using our own maintenance shafts, ventilation systems, and emergency passages. They know our ship's layout better than our own crew." Zekrith realized with dawning horror that the humans had been studying hegemony vessel designs during their conquest of the other colonies. Every captured ship had provided intelligence about hegemony technology and tactics, the main display activated, showing internal security footage from his own corridors. Zekrith watched as a team of 6 humans advanced through the ship with mechanical precision. Their movements were so coordinated they seemed to share a single mind. "Bridge security, stop them!" he ordered, but his security forces were completely outmatched. The humans moved through his ship like they'd been born aboard it, anticipating every defensive position, exploiting every weakness in hegemony tactics. A new voice appeared on his communication system. "Admiral Zekrith, this is Colonel Martinez, United States Marine Corps. We're coming for your bridge. Surrender now and your crew will not be harmed." "Martinez." Zekrith recognized the name from the first intercepted transmission. The female officer who had requested the deployment of these apex predators. "Your military command?" Zekrith asked. "I'm the officer in charge of this operation," Martinez replied. "These warriors answer to me, Admiral. And right now, I'm giving you one final chance to surrender peacefully." Zekrith studied his tactical display. 37 of his ships showed red status, captured or disabled. His mighty fleet was being systematically dismantled by a few hundred human warriors. "What do you want?" he asked. "Immediate withdrawal from all human space," Martinez replied. "Return of all captured civilians. And formal recognition that humanity is not prey for the hegemony." The bridge doors exploded inward. Human warriors flooded through the breach, their weapons trained on every hegemony officer. They moved with such speed and precision that Zekrith's security forces couldn't even draw their weapons. Colonel Martinez entered last, removing her helmet to reveal the same determined face from the original transmission. She surveyed the bridge with professional calm. "Admiral Zekrith," she said respectfully, "you fought well, but you never understood what you were facing." "Enlighten me," Zekrith said bitterly. Martinez gestured toward her warriors. "These are America's finest special operations forces. Every man and woman here has spent years training to be the best at the most dangerous jobs in human military service. They volunteer for missions other soldiers consider impossible." She moved to his tactical display, pointing at the fleet status indicators. "Navy SEALs trained to operate in any environment, land, sea, air, or space. Delta Force specializes in hostage rescue and precision strikes. Army Rangers are elite airborne infantry. Marine Force Recon are deep reconnaissance specialists. Green Berets are unconventional warfare experts." Zekrith listened with growing understanding. "You have multiple warrior castes." "We have multiple specialized elite units," Martinez corrected. "But they all share certain qualities. They never leave a comrade behind. They adapt to any situation. They turn impossible odds into victory through training, teamwork, and sheer determination." Another human appeared on the bridge, Master Chief Rodriguez, whom Zekrith recognized from earlier transmissions. "Admiral," he said respectfully, "your crew fought bravely, but they were trained for conventional warfare. We train for everything else." Around the bridge, Zekrith saw other human warriors, Rangers, Marines, Delta operators, each with their own specialized equipment and bearing. But they all shared the same calm confidence, the same absolute certainty in their abilities. "You planned this entire operation." Zekrith realized. "We've been planning for galactic contact since humans first reached for the stars," Martinez replied. "When we learned the hegemony was attacking our colonies, we knew conventional tactics wouldn't work. So we deployed our asymmetric warfare specialists. Your apex predators?" "The best America has to offer," Martinez confirmed. "Warriors who thrive in impossible situations." Zekrith looked at his tactical display one final time. His fleet was completely neutralized. Not destroyed. The humans had been remarkably careful to minimize casualties. But captured, disabled, and utterly defeated. "What are your terms?" he asked. "Immediate withdrawal from human space," Martinez repeated. "All captured civilians returned unharmed." And a message to Hegemony Command that humanity is under the protection of the American apex predators. Zekrith considered his options. He could fight and lose his entire fleet. Or he could accept this defeat and return to warn the hegemony about what humans were truly capable of. Agreed, he said finally, within hours. The hegemony fleet was withdrawing from Terra Nova. Ships that had been captured were returned with their crews, unharmed but deeply shaken. The human warriors vanished as mysteriously as they had appeared. As his flagship limped away from human space, Zekrith composed his report to Hegemony Command. He struggled to find words that would adequately convey what he had witnessed. Recommendation: classify humanity as class a threat, he dictated. Human military capabilities far exceed initial assessments. They possess warrior castes of exceptional skill and determination. Their American apex predators represent a form of specialized warfare unlike anything in our experience. He paused, Reem. Admiral Zekrith watched his fleet close with Terra Nova's pathetic defenses. The human orbital platforms were already firing their primitive kinetic weapons. The projectiles bounced harmlessly off hegemony shields, creating brief sparks of light against the energy barriers. Their resistance is even weaker than projected, reported his tactical officer. Shall I order immediate planetary bombardment? Zekrith nodded. Begin with their military installations. Once they see the futility of resistance, they'll surrender like all the others. The first wave of hegemony destroyers moved into optimal firing position. Energy beams lanced down toward Terra Nova's surface, striking military bases with devastating precision. Explosions bloomed across the planet's main continent. Sir, the communications officer called out. We're receiving a response from the humans. General Harrison's image appeared on the main display again. Behind him, Zekrith could see what appeared to be an underground command center. The human looked remarkably calm for someone whose world was being bombarded. Admiral Zekrith, Harrison said, you've made your choice. The American apex predators are now authorized for full engagement. Your world burns, human, Zekrith replied. Surrender now and your people will be spared. Harrison's smile was cold. Admiral, you still don't understand. You're not hunting us anymore. Now we're hunting you. The transmission ended. Zekrith stared at the display with growing irritation. These humans were either insane or possessed hidden capabilities his intelligence officers had missed. Continue bombardment, he ordered, and launch boarding parties to their remaining orbital platforms. I want prisoners for interrogation. 3 hegemony assault ships moved toward the largest human platform. The structure was primitive by galactic standards, essentially a weapons platform with basic life support. It should have been captured within minutes. Zekrith watched the tactical display as his boarding pods, attached to the human station. 50 hegemony warriors in full combat armor began cutting through the hull. Their plasma torches made quick work of the primitive human metal. Boarding in progress, reported the assault leader. No significant resistance detected. But something was wrong. The tactical display showed the boarding pods attached successfully. But then nothing. The assault leader's communications went silent. Status report from boarding Team Alpha, Zekrith demanded. Static answered him. Team Beta, what is your situation? More static. On the tactical display, the human orbital platform showed no signs of damage or distress. It continued operating normally, as if nothing had happened. Sir, his intelligence officer spoke nervously, we've lost contact with all 3 boarding teams. 150 warriors, gone silent simultaneously. Zekrith felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. In 30 years of conquest, he'd never lost an entire boarding force without explanation. Send a probe to investigate the orbital platform, he commanded. The probe approached cautiously. Its sensors scanning for any signs of the missing hegemony forces. What it found defied explanation. The boarding pods were still attached to the station. The hull breaches were exactly as expected, but the pods themselves were empty. 150 warriors in full combat armor had simply vanished. How is this possible? Zekrith whispered. His answer came from an unexpected source. One of his own destroyers, the Righteous Fury, suddenly began transmitting on emergency frequencies. This is Captain Veltar? We have intruders aboard. Unknown hostiles have breached our security. They're moving through the ship like ghosts? The transmission cut to weapons fire and screaming. Then silence. Zekrith stared at the tactical display in growing horror. The righteous fury showed no external damage. No boarding pods had approached it. How could enemies possibly be aboard? Sir, his communications officer shouted, the Stellar Hammer is reporting intruders as well. They say the attackers appeared from nowhere. Then another ship. And another. Across his fleet, hegemony vessels were reporting impossible boarding actions. Enemies who appeared without warning moved through heavily armed corridors like they were born to it, and struck with precision that defied understanding. Visual confirmation on the intruders, Zekrith demanded. I need to see what we're fighting. The main display shifted to show internal security footage from the righteous. Fury, Zekrith watched in stunned silence as armored figures moved through the ship's corridors with lethal efficiency. The intruders were human, but not like any humans he'd encountered before. These wore sleek black armor that seemed to absorb light. Their movements were precise and coordinated. They advanced through the ship like a pack of predators, each one covering the others with disciplined perfection. How did they get aboard? Zekrith breathed. His answer came as he watched the security footage. The humans weren't using boarding pods or shuttlecraft. They were somehow moving directly through space, from ship to ship, like they were swimming through the vacuum itself. Impossible, his tactical officer muttered. No species can survive in hard vacuum without environmental suits. But the humans on the display wore minimal protective gear. They moved through space with the same fluid grace they showed in the ship's corridors. Sir, his intelligence officer called out, his voice high with panic. I'm detecting similar intrusions on 7 more vessels. These humans are boarding our ships faster than we can track them. Zekrith watched his perfectly organized battle formation descend into chaos. Ship after ship reported boarding actions. Captains called for help that he couldn't provide. The humans moved through his fleet like a virus, appearing where they couldn't possibly be, striking where his defenses were weakest. Deploy security teams, he ordered. Seal all critical sections. Begin immediate countermeasures. But the reports coming back made no sense. Hegemony security forces, veterans of countless boarding actions, were being systematically dismantled by the human intruders. These weren't ordinary soldiers. They moved with supernatural skill and coordination on his main display. Zekrith watched footage from the Divine Retribution. A team of 8 humans advanced through the ship's main corridor. Hegemony warriors fired plasma bolts from covered positions. But the humans seemed to predict every shot. One human rolled beneath incoming fire while another leaped over a barrier that should have been impossible to clear. A third appeared behind the hegemony position as if he'd materialized from thin air. Within seconds, the entire defensive line was neutralized. What manner of warriors are these? Zekrith whispered. His answer came from an unexpected source. One of the human intruders on the Divine Retribution looked directly into a security camera and spoke in accented galactic standard. Tell your admiral he's fighting Navy SEALs now, the human said calmly. Then he destroyed the camera with a precision shot. Navy SEALs. The term meant nothing to Zekrith, but the tone of the human's voice carried absolute confidence. More reports flooded in. The merciless dawn had been completely overrun in under 10 minutes. The Iron Fist was reporting engine room seizure by hostiles. The Eternal Glory had lost all command functions to human infiltrators. Admiral, his tactical officer reported grimly, we've lost effective control of 12 vessels. These human SEALs, they're not just boarding our ships. They're capturing them. Zekrith studied the tactical display with growing dread. Red warning lights blinked across his fleet formation. Ship after ship showed compromised status. How many humans are there? He demanded. Estimates vary, sir, his intelligence officer replied. But based on observed team sizes, perhaps 200 to 300 total. 200 humans were dismantling a fleet of 200 ships crewed by 50,000 hegemony warriors. Impossible. Zekrith breathed, but the evidence was undeniable. These humans fought like nothing he'd ever encountered. They moved through his ships like they were reading his mind, anticipating every defense, exploiting every weakness. A new transmission appeared on his display. This time it wasn't General Harrison. It was one of the human warriors aboard the Divine Retribution. He wore the same black armor Zekrith had seen in the security footage. "Admiral Zekrith," the human said. "This is Master Chief Rodriguez, United States Navy SEALs. Your fleet is being systematically disabled. Surrender now and your crews will be treated as prisoners of war." Zekrith's mandibles clicked with rage. "You are outnumbered 200 to 1. The human smile was visible through his helmet's transparent faceplate. "Admiral, you're not fighting 200 humans. You're fighting 200 of America's finest warriors. We've been training for situations exactly like this since we were children. What are you?" Zekrith demanded. "We're the guys who swim underwater for miles to reach enemy targets," Rodriguez replied calmly. "We're the guys who jump out of aircraft in the middle of storms. We're the guys who rappel down mountainsides while people are shooting at us. And today, we're the guys who travel through vacuum to board your ships." The transmission continued as Rodriguez gestured toward something off-camera. "Admiral, you want to know what American apex predators are? We're humans who have spent our entire lives learning to be the best at the most dangerous job in the universe. And that job is hunting people who hurt innocent civilians." Another voice joined the transmission. "Hooyah, Master Chief," then another. "Semper Fi, Navy." The responses came from Admiral Zekrith's 4 eyes studied the holographic display floating above his command throne. The blue-green projection showed 17 human colonies scattered across the Outer Rim territories. 16 of them now bore the crimson markers of hegemony conquest. Only one remained defiant. "Status report on the final human settlement," Zekrith commanded, his voice echoing through the bridge of the massive dreadnought Eternal Dominion. "Terra Nova continues to resist." "Admiral," replied his intelligence officer, a thin Valorian with nervous twitches in his antenna. "However, we've intercepted concerning communications from their military command." Zekrith's mandibles clicked with amusement. The humans had provided laughably little resistance so far. Their primitive kinetic weapons barely scratched hegemony shields. Their tactics were straightforward and predictable. Most surrendered after the first orbital bombardment demonstration. What could these primitives possibly say that would concern the hegemony? Zekrith asked. The intelligence officer's skin shifted to a pale orange, indicating anxiety. "They mentioned something called American apex predators, Admiral. The transmission was heavily encrypted, but our codebreakers believe they're referring to a new weapon system." For the first time in cycles, Zekrith felt a flicker of interest. The humans had been so disappointingly weak. Their space navy consisted of converted cargo haulers with primitive missile systems. Their ground forces used chemical propellants and relied on infantry tactics that were obsolete by galactic standards. "Display the intercepted communication," Zekrith ordered. The hologram shifted to show a grainy transmission. A human female in military uniform appeared, her face grim with determination. Her voice carried through the bridge's translation matrix. "Command, this is Colonel Martinez at Terra Nova Defense. Hegemony forces are massing for final assault. Request immediate deployment of American apex predators. We cannot hold without them? Repeat, we need the apex predators now." The transmission cut to static. Zekrith leaned forward in his throne, studying the human's expression. Despite facing certain defeat, she showed no fear. That was unusual for humans. Most species begged for mercy when facing hegemony might. "Analysis?" Zekrith demanded. His tactical officer, a hulking cretin with stone-gray skin, accessed his databank. "No records of any human weapon system designated apex predators, Admiral. Intelligence suggests they may have developed something significant during our campaign against their other colonies." Zekrith considered this. The hegemony had conquered 47 species across 12 sectors. Every victory had been swift and decisive. Their military doctrine was proven. Overwhelming force, superior technology, and psychological warfare had never failed, yet something about this transmission bothered him. The human colonel's tone wasn't desperate. It was ... confident. Could they have developed some new starship class? Zekrith asked. Unlikely, Admiral, the tactical officer replied. Our sensors would have detected any significant shipyard activity. Human industrial capacity has actually decreased during our campaign. Perhaps a planetary defense system? Also doubtful. Terra Nova shows no unusual energy signatures or construction activity. Zekrith's frustration grew. The hegemony's strength lay in knowing their enemies. Every species followed predictable patterns. The crystalline Vorthak relied on hive mind coordination. The aquatic Nereids excelled in fluid environments. The insectoid Zek used swarm tactics. Humans seemed to have no special advantages. They were average in strength, speed, and intelligence. Their technology lagged behind galactic standards by centuries. They had no natural weapons, no environmental specializations, no psychic abilities. So what were these apex predators? Send a probe to Terra Nova, Zekrith commanded. I want detailed scans of the entire system. If the humans have developed something new, I need to know about it. The probe launched immediately, racing toward the human colony at faster-than-light speed. Within hours, it transmitted comprehensive sensor data back to the hegemony fleet. Zekrith examined the results with growing confusion. Terra Nova appeared exactly as expected. One small planet with a population of 2 million humans. The basic orbital platforms with primitive weapons. No hidden shipyards, no massive defensive installations, no unusual energy readings. There's nothing here, he muttered. Perhaps the apex predators are already deployed elsewhere? Suggested his intelligence officer. Zekrith pulled up strategic displays showing the entire sector. Hegemony forces controlled all major systems. Human resistance had been crushed systematically. Where could they hide any significant weapons? Admiral, his communications officer interrupted, we're receiving another human transmission. This one is directed at us. Zekrith straightened. Direct communication was unusual. Most species either surrendered immediately or fought in silence until destroyed. Put it through. A human male appeared on the main display. He wore what appeared to be a military uniform, though it was simpler than the elaborate regalia favored by most galactic officers. His bearing was confident, almost relaxed. I am General Harrison, commanding Terra Nova Defense Forces, the human said calmly. Admiral Zekrith, I presume. Your reputation precedes you. Zekrith's mandibles clicked with surprise. The human knew his name. That suggested intelligence capabilities the hegemony hadn't detected. I am Admiral Zekrith of the 7th Conquest Fleet, he replied. You will surrender immediately or face complete destruction. The human smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. Admiral, I'm calling to give you one chance to withdraw from this system peacefully, Harrison said. You've had great success against our frontier colonies. Those were defended by militia and reserve forces. Terra Nova is different. How is it different? Zekrith demanded. We've deployed our American apex predators, Harrison replied. I think you'll find them quite unlike anything you've encountered before. The transmission ended abruptly. Zekrith stared at the empty display, his 4 eyes narrowing. The human's tone had been absolutely certain. Not desperate, not bluffing, but genuinely confident. Analysis of the human's biometrics during transmission, Zekrith ordered, his medical officer. A pale Etherian with translucent skin checked her readings. No signs of deception, Admiral. Heart rate was steady, brain activity patterns showed confidence rather than fear. Either he's an exceptional liar or he genuinely believes he has an advantage. Zekrith turned to his tactical officer. Cretan analysis? The stone-skinned warrior studied the data. The human showed no submissive postures. His stance indicated readiness for combat. In my experience, prey animals don't behave this way unless they have hidden strengths. Or unless they're insane, Zekrith muttered, he had conquered dozens of worlds. He knew the patterns. Desperate enemies made grandiose threats. They invented fictional super-weapons. They bluffed with empty promises of hidden allies, but this felt different. The human general wasn't making threats or demands. He was issuing a warning. "Order the fleet to battle formation," Zekrith commanded. "We advance on Terra Nova immediately." "Admiral," his intelligence officer spoke hesitantly, "perhaps we should request additional support from Hegemony Command. If the humans have developed something unexpected." Zekrith's mandibles snapped with irritation. "I command 200 vessels and 50,000 warriors. What could one primitive human colony possibly deploy against such force?" The question hung in the air as his fleet moved toward Terra Nova. Throughout the Armada, Hegemony soldiers checked their equipment and prepared for another easy victory. Veterans shared jokes about human weakness. New recruits were told stories of the swift conquests they'd witness, but in his private chambers, Admiral Zekrith studied intelligence reports late into the ship's night cycle. Something about the humans nagged at him. They were too calm, too confident. Every conquered species had shown the same pattern. Initial resistance, growing desperation, final collapse. The humans of Terra Nova weren't following that pattern. As his fleet approached the human colony, Zekrith received one final transmission from General Harrison. "Admiral, this is your last chance to reconsider. The American apex predators are fully deployed and ready. You don't know what you're facing." "Enlighten me," Zekrith replied coldly. The human smile was grim. "You will discover that some predators can't be caged, Admiral. Some hunts end differently than expected." The transmission cut. Zekrith's fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Terra Nova system. Sensors immediately locked onto human defensive positions around the planet. Everything appeared exactly as expected. Orbital platforms with primitive weapons. Small patrol craft that couldn't threaten a hegemony destroyer. No sign of any super-weapons or advanced technology. "Begin the attack," Zekrith commanded, but as his massive fleet moved toward the small human colony, Admiral Zekrith felt something he'd never experienced in his long military career. What exactly were these American apex predators? He was about to find out.